All right, let's have our AI agent analyze Bitcoin for us. So that request is getting sent to our n8n backend where it's going to do all the analysis and then bring it to us on our web app. Okay, so here's the Bitcoin analysis it gave us. We got a technical chart showing its volume, MACD, and RSI. It then gives us an executive summary, technical analysis, market context, a full-blown investment thesis, and it gives us more details here at the bottom. Not bad. So what you just saw right there was our AI agent acting as a crypto analyst. It did a deep dive breakdown on Bitcoin, gave us all the information it found to our web app that we built on Lovable, all with no code. That AI agent not only does technical analysis based on the charts we give it, but it's also able to scrape the web and find all the relevant news about that particular stock or cryptocurrency that it thinks is important when it comes to guiding our decisions. And in this video, I'm not only going to give you the template so you can use that AI agent yourself, I'm going to show you how it's built, how to edit it, and how we can connect it to a front end that we build on Lovable, which is super important, not just for this video, but for making AI agents and automations in general that you want to package into some sort of front end web application. And that's a great skill to have if you're in the AI agency space and want to actually sell n8n automations and agents, because you can't just give people the n8n backend. Nobody knows what to do with that. You need to know how to package it into some sort of front end app that people can actually interact with easily. We're going to cover all that and more in this video. So let's go ahead and jump into it. So let's begin with our most important part, the AI agent doing all the analysis behind the scenes. Now, if you followed me for a minute, you probably remember the video I put out a few months ago titled AI Agent that Analyzes Your Stocks, and it looked very similar to this one. So what's changed? Well, a lot has changed. First of all, we've completely redone the system prompt from the ground up, so it does a way better job at actually analyzing the data it receives. Secondly, we've made it way more flexible. Before, it was kind of hardwired to only deal with stocks. Now it can easily do crypto as well. And lastly, we've greatly improved its ability to conduct market research and sentiment analysis. So those three changes combined have given us a much more robust AI agent, and we've taken the extra step of actually turning it into a web app, which is what you see here. So what is this web app? How did we create it and connect it to our agent? Well, first, it was created using Lovable, which is a web app for creating websites and web apps. And you just do it via prompting, right? You treat it like ChatGPT, you can connect it to Supabase, you can do Stripe integrations. It's actually really robust. But today we'll keep it simple. We're just essentially doing a wrapper around our AI agent. And speaking of our agent and how it all connects, if we take a look at this guy, you'll notice these webhooks. And these webhooks are the key to connecting our n8n backend to our Lovable front end. So big picture, what's happening, if I'm on my website, for example, and I say, hey, I want you to analyze Tesla. Well, that data is now getting sent to n8n. And it's getting sent to n8n via this webhook. So analyze Tesla then gets sent to this AI agent, and it does two things. One, it uses the stock tool. And that stock tool is what finds that chart image that you saw earlier and does analysis on it. That's what's happening here. You can see in the system prompt, we gave it a pretty robust prompt about, hey, here's how I want you to actually do the technical analysis. Then sends that back to the AI agent, which is simultaneously doing that market research sentiment analysis via Tavily. So it's going out to the greater web and saying, hey, what sort of relevant news is there about Tesla, about Musk, right? What do I need to know in addition to the actual chart numbers to help inform me about how we should approach this stock or crypto? From there, that response then goes to the respond to webhook, which is what gets sent to Lovable, which is eventually what populates here, right? And if we look here, that's what we see. This was all inside of n8n once. We've just now superimposed it onto our website. It's a wrapper, right? You know how you hear people talk about GPT wrappers? Well, this is our n8n AI agent wrapper. Same thing kind of applies. And like I mentioned in the intro, this is important not just for this, but for really any sort of AI agent or automation you create that you eventually want to sell, because it's much easier to sell something like this and like this sort of outcome. This is easier for most people to understand than just to show them this and be like, here you go, have at it, right? So it's a really great skill. You need to learn how to use it. And I think today is an awesome demo where you can kind of get your hands dirty in this space. So here's how the rest of the video is going to go. What I want you to do now is, if you haven't done it already, go to my free Skool. There's a link down below. Download this template and upload it so you can follow along. And that way you're not starting from scratch, and it'll make it way quicker when it comes time to actually build the website. And you can kind of see, okay, here's where I need to change things for my particular use case. Here's how I can customize it, etc. Then once you have your hands on the template, what we're going to do is I'm going to go module by module, and I'm going to explain the logic behind all of these, how I get the API, how to set up Tavily, and then what you need to edit, right? After that, we're then going to connect this guy to Lovable. We're going to build our web app from scratch. I'm going to show you how I would prompt it, some sort of tips and tricks, and what sort of issues you're inevitably going to run into along the way and how to navigate them. So let's start from the top with the system prompt. So what are we telling our AI agent actually to do? So you can see we break this out into really 3 phases, right? Phase 1 right here, this is it taking your input and then figuring out, okay, if he says, take a look at Tesla or take a look at Bitcoin or analyze Bitcoin, how do I turn that into something I can actually use? So we give it examples like Tesla becomes TSLA as well as the market. And we need that market, as you'll see later, to get the proper charts. After it's confirmed the market, we then go into phase 2, which is, hey, how are we getting all this data, right? The technical analysis, we specify, hey, use the stock tool. Here's what you're going to get. Then we go into market intelligence and financial metrics. Hey, I need you to do a search with Tably. We need you to do 2 searches. The first search is all about, kind of sentiment analysis news. And then second call for Tably is, hey, I want you to get some financial metrics, like specifically stuff, like PE ratio or volume, that sort of deal. And then phase 3 is the synthesis. So we're shoving a ton of information in this agent and we're saying, hey, here's how I want you to actually analyze it and give us an output. And the rest of this is all about that output, right? How do I want you to structure the summary, the snapshot, the cryptocurrencies, all this stuff, and even quality standards, special considerations, and critical reminders. Understand with the system prompt, this is extremely customizable. However you want this AI agent to give you an output and what sort of things you want to focus on, this is where you go and you change it. And also, I didn't make this from scratch and you shouldn't edit it from scratch. I took all this, I gave it to Claude and I said, hey, this is what I'm creating. This is the AI agent I want. This is kind of what I want the output to be. Give me a system prompt. Approach it the same way. And we'll kind of zoom in to make this a little easier to see. Let's also talk about this now, the prompt. So obviously this is hooked up to a webhook. So what is the user prompt actually going to be? Well, it's coming from our webhook. And you'll see if I scroll down, you see this query right here where it says Bitcoin. That's what's going here. That's what got dragged in here. So when it comes time for you to create your particular web app, you're going to have to have it send a message first, and then you'll eventually come back here and be like, okay, here's the query. This is where this needs to go. That's what's going on. Next, we have our chat model. Right now, I'm using GPT-5, which is a thinking model. So it does give you a good output, but it can be kind of slow, right? Sometimes it can take a minute or 2 from when you put the request to get a response. If you want something that's snappier, use a different model, use a non-thinking model. Again, edit it as you wish. We're just using simple memory right now. And then we have our stock tool, which just calls on this tool right down below. It's in the same workflow, just for simplicity. And then we have Tably. And we'll come to Tably in a bit, but I actually want to start with the stock tool. So what the stock tool needs, what it needs is it needs that ticker and it needs the market. Because if I come here, well, we'll go through this, right? Executed by another workflow. We have edit fields, right? We're just calling this ticker now, right? So we had Tesla. Let's say we sent Tesla. It goes from query Tesla to ticker Tesla. You don't really need that, but I do it anyways. And then we have our HTTP request with Chart-Img. Now, Chart-Img, we'll bring it up right here. It's just chart-img.com. I want you to go to this website. I'll put a link down below, create an account, and then you're going to go ahead and we're just going to be using the free account. So we can get 50 charts a day for free. We're able to use 3 parameters on that chart. And as you can see, if you're really into this, you could pay more to get more parameters and more charts, etc. Once you're on this page, you're just going to go to API key and then go in here and go ahead and generate a new key. Inside here on the HTTP request, again, you're going to have the template. So all this is going to be there for you. You're just going to input your key here under X API key. Next, we have the JSON payload. And this is where we're putting all the information to get the chart we want. Now, what chart is in here for you right now? Well, it's a chart that gives you volume, MACD, and the relative strength index. What if I want something different? What's available to me? Well, you just go to Chart-Img, you go to API documentation, and this entire page is dedicated to explaining all the different charts that are available, all the different parameters you can use, and it is dense. Do you need to understand this completely? No. What you do need to do is to be able to go to something like TradingView Snapshot V2, right over here on the left, copy all this stuff, go to AI, dump it in there and say, hey, I'm trying to create a chart for my AI agent. What should I use, right? That's how you can have it create an API request that you can then put in your stock analyzer, right? You would then dump that into here and it's good to go. Easy enough. That request then gets the chart for us, We then download that chart here on HTTP request 1, and then we send it to this basic LLM chain, which, as you saw before, is doing all the technical analysis for us. Again, if you're going to be using a different chart, you need to change this up a little bit. Also of note, for the chat message, we're actually sending it an image, so make sure this is user, binary, data, and hi. Then we have this edit fields here, and what's happening here is this is what we're sending back to our AI agent. So the text is the analysis that's done on the stock or cryptocurrency, and then we're also sending the URL of the chart image. And we do that so that we can actually get this image here eventually brought to us. So the last thing we need to talk about here is Tavily. Tavily is a community node, but it now has an official community node. So even if you're not self-hosted, you can get this. You're just going to go ahead and search for Tavily. And if you don't have it yet, there'll be an option to download it, and you'll be ready to go. Once inside, you'll need to connect your account. All you need to do is go to tavily.com, and it's going to look like this. You're going to log in. Once you're inside tavily.com and you log in, you're going to see this on the front. This is your API key. You just hit this button right here, you copy it, and you're good to go. You also get 1,000 free credits a month, which is pretty nice. So inside this node, obviously you need to connect your account with the API key. We're going to be doing search query, and the query is going to be defined automatically by the model. So the model's smart enough to know what it should be searching for based on our system prompt. Beyond that, I'm having it do advanced for its search depth. That way it actually goes pretty deep in its analysis. You can change that as you need. And for days, I just want everything within the last week. Again, feel free to edit. And so that is how this AI agent works. Now let's go to the fun part, which is actually creating our web app in Lovable and hooking it all up. So here we are inside of Lovable, and this is where we're going to prompt our way into our wrapper for our AI agent. Now, Lovable is just like any other large language model. In fact, they're using Sonnet 4.0 under the hood for this thing, so you're kind of talking with Claude. The best way to do it if you want a particular web page is go find a website you love, take screenshots of it, give it to Lovable, and then say, hey, this is the website I want, this is what I want it to do, and I want it done in this style, the style of the image that I attached. So if you're looking for places to go for inspiration, I actually asked Perplexity what are some cool places for website design and to find some cool examples. It gave me some options like Site Inspire, Awards, Landbook, Minimal Gallery. So just go out there into the great dark beyond and find some cool websites that you would like to emulate. So I actually found this one on Site Inspire, and this was like my first inspiration for creating like this terminal style that I actually ended up going with. So again, I just went to Site Inspire, found this, and I just took a screenshot of this and I dumped it into Lovable. So I'm just going to repeat that same process. I gave it a screenshot of that website, and the prompt I gave it isn't even sophisticated. You can make this way better by having AI help you, but I just wrote, I want to create a single page web app that is connected to my n8n AI agent on the backend that does stock analysis. I'm thinking something cool like what I attached, where we talk with Krypton, let's make up another name. But that chat goes to our n8n bot, which takes the stock it wants to analyze and returns a bunch of analysis, and then the analysis is displayed, right? Nothing fancy. You could do a lot better than that, but let's see what it creates. So as this is building, let's talk about what we're going to have to do inside of n8n. So looking at this, you should have your webhook created, and we're going to unpin this data. What you're going to have to do, and what we're going to do, is we're going to go to production URL. We're going to copy this URL, and we're going to go back to Lovable, and we're going to say, hey, I have a webhook inside of n8n. It is a get webhook, and this is the URL. I want all data from my web page to go to this n8n backend. What we're saying is, hey, here's our address, right? This is where I want the data sent. So we're going to have to tell Lovable that after it creates our web page. So make sure you have this production URL copied. Make sure this is set to get. Make sure respond is using respond to webhook node. Then I want you to set this to active and make sure it's saved. All right, so here's what it made on its first pass. Not terrible, not exactly what we want, but we just want to make sure the functionality works, and then we can go ahead and we can play with the actual design, right? So what I'm going to tell it now is I'm going to give it the webhook. I'm going to say it's a get, and then we're going to do some tests. Okay, so you can see what I wrote on the bottom left. I said, let's connect it to my n8n AI agent. The n8n webhook has the following information. HTTP method is get, URL is the production URL we copied, and then I say, I need you to send it to the user's query. So whatever we type, that's what gets sent. And then I say, also, the n8n workflow will return a response to you in JSON. So I'm saying, hey, on this guy, the response, that will be in JSON. That's what goes back to you. Just expect it. So we're going to give it that. And then once it says it's done all that, we're going to type in a response. We're going to go back to n8n, and we're going to notice that we're going to get an error. but that's okay. It's totally expected, and I'll show you how to fix it. Okay, it says it's connected, so I'm going to send in a message that just says Tesla, and we'll see what happens. What we should expect is we're going to go back into our AI agent. We're going to go to executions, and you can see right here, it immediately errored out. That's okay, and I'll show you why. So we're going to go to debug and editor. Now, the two things that you will notice is we have an error here and here in memory. So what's the error here? The error here is the user message. So we're going to go from define below. We'll keep that, but we need to change the prompt, right? Because it's not a chat input anymore. It's coming from the webhook, and we talked about this at the very beginning. If you come to the bottom left, you see the query. You should see a query that matches what you typed into the web app. So in this case, it was Tesla. So I'm going to put it there. The other error was with the memory node, and I'll show you how we fix that. So I actually want you to take the X real IP right here. It's just going to save us a little pain. You're going to put it in here. Then I want you to just copy it. So copy it and delete it. So this should just be JSON query, whatever it is. Go out, go to simple memory, switch this to define below, and for the key, paste that in there, the IP. So what we've done is we've now tied the key to the IP, right? That's how it's going to make sure the session ID is the same. So with that, we'll have solved the problem. So I want you to save it one more time. You can refresh it, go back to Lovable, and let's try it one more time. So I'm going to put Tesla. And then let's go back and see what happens. Okay, so we see the executions running right now. You might notice a few errors down there. That was because I had an API key mismatch. But this will take anywhere from 30 seconds to a couple minutes, depending on what model you're using. Once it's done, we'll continue. Okay, so we see it worked on the n8n side. It actually responded to the webhook, and the automation down below worked as well. This is great. This is what you wanted to see because we know the back end, the part that's actually important, is working. It's grabbing data and it's sending it. Now let's look at Lovable. This looks nice, but all this information is obviously wrong. It didn't actually show any of the analysis it did, but that's okay. We know the data is there somewhere. So now it just becomes a matter of going back and forth with Lovable. I usually use the chat function down here, so it doesn't do any edits before we kind of confirm what's happening. And we're just going to say like, hey, did you get the output? This is what the output was. Why don't I see it? How I often do that is I'll go into here and I'll actually click into the response to webhook. Because see, this is all the data that was sent. It just didn't show it. So I'll copy this data, go into Lovable, and I'll say, hey, this is what n8n sent. Why don't I see it? So that's exactly what I did here. I gave it the full response, and then Lovable came back and said like, oh, I just didn't know that's what the response would look like. Let me fix it for you. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to implement its new plan, and we'll see what it looks like. And you can honestly always expect this sort of back and forth when you're dealing with a Lovable wrapper on top of your n8n agents. So once it makes those changes, just go ahead and run it one more time. So we tried it again, and Lovable came back with another error message. So when we go back in here and we look at our executions, we're saying, okay, but it is actually sending all of the information. So again, we know it's good on the n8n side. So all we're going to do is we're going to repeat the process, go back to Lovable, show it the response, and see if it can come back. And again, it says, hey, I'm looking at the console logs, and I see the issue. It has to do with the parsing. This sort of back and forth is kind of just expected in par for the course when creating these sort of wrappers, but usually it only takes 2 or 3 of these iterations before we have it up and working. So it looks like third time was the charm. I'll move my thing over here. So we can see now, hey, it shows the chart, goes into the executive summary, and then we kind of have a little drop-down menus for all our analysis, right? So we kind of see the investment thesis. All the same stuff we saw in this original one is now in here. Now, is this way uglier? Of course it is. But we now have the actual function of it working. And when it comes to making it look nice or pretty or however you want, all you have to do is you have to continue to prompt Lovable. So for me, usually I'll go into chat and I'll just be like, hey, I'm trying to do something more terminal inspired. I want it to be kind of like green and black. Like, what are some recommendations? And it will usually come back with like 4, 5, 6 different ones and try to implement them. And just for, fun, I'll do that right now real quick. All right, so here it is after just one prompt. This looks way better than before. Has like the matrix deal going on in the background. You have like the cool little card highlights. You have some like scrolling text. Actually, this looks pretty sick. I think I kind of like it better than the one we originally started with, but shows you how easy it is to go from, whatever it starts with on the first shot to like one more prompt. That was just one more prompt. So last thing I'm going to show in this video is how to publish it. Super easy on Lovable. You can push this to GitHub if you want, but if you just want to publish it right away and get it online, just go ahead and hit publish here. and then it'll actually publish it to the web. Now, understand when you expose this to the web, anybody can use it, right? So your API keys and all that, like people can go ahead and mess with those. I will get rid of this later. But yeah, just like that, you now have a pretty cool website that's able to do everything we've been talking about. You created essentially an AI agent wrapper in what, 20, 30 minutes or whatever, and you can customize it. And like you see, it actually looks pretty sweet. So I hope this video was useful for you guys. I had a lot of fun making it. I always love doing the Lovable integrations. So let me know what you thought in the comments. Let me see what sort of websites you built. And as always, I'll see you around.